another thing is looking at physical activity as culture. So the way I know you are in Georgia, I'm in Maryland. Our movement, the way we do physical activity, kind of like the popular sports, all of those things, there's a cultural element to it. So that my walk here in Maryland may be different in my walk in Georgia or in another area. So we try to bring those three elements.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Caleb Isom here for another episode of my podcast called Sketching the Blueprint. Where I plan on taking people's blueprint. It could be their story, their tips, their advice, and we sketch out to the audience, talk it out to the audience, have candid conversation. Today I have a very special guest, man. I got my cousin Roger here, man. He's so phenomenal, man. His intellect is amazing. I'm really excited to really pick his brain this episode, man. So first off, I want to say, man, thank you, Roger, for being here, for joining me, man, and taking time out your day. And if you go ahead and just give us a quick 30-second introduction.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Roger Isom Jr. I am coming to you from Bowie, Maryland, and I'm here today to talk about kind of my ups and down journey of where I am today. So looking forward to that.
Okay, man. And what's the hardest part of being an entrepreneur, or something that we don't know but we need to know?
I would say, being an entrepreneur or emerging as an entrepreneur, everything does not go as planned. So you can do as much to prepare, as much to think about all the potential scenarios that could happen, but also plan that things are going to happen as unplanned. So that's one of the biggest challenges I had to really navigate and understand and then grow to appreciate. Because for me, I'm very step one, step two, step three, I'm very kind of thinking about all the possibilities that could occur. And if so, how would I respond? But then sometimes when you think you've listed everything, you realize one curveball comes at you and you're like, I thought I prepared, but I wasn't prepared enough. But because you stay in that kind of state of readiness, you're able to be nimble and pivot. So I would say, the biggest, challenge for me in that entrepreneurship is just things do not always go on your time and they don't always go as planned. So prepare for that and you should be fine.
Okay. So you really got to watch out for the curveballs and things that you don't expect.
Yep. And you know that it's coming. That's all you just know. You don't know when, you don't know the time, you don't know the place, you don't know from who, but you just know it's coming. So you kind of, and it keeps a little bit of excitement. It lets you keeps you on your toes of knowing that something's going to come. So with that type of frame of mind, you can more approach it rather than approach it with, why wasn't I prepared for that? You can really grill yourself and then kind of, take it in a negative frame of mind. But if you stay with an open mindset, like you said, it's coming.
So with all them curveballs and trying to stay ready, do you feel like so far, how have you grown, or have you grown personally from, the curveballs and,
Most definitely. As I said, you learn to appreciate it in the end. Going through it is another story, but when you get through the other side, you really appreciate and realize the growth that you've developed through that training. And I would say the biggest thing I've learned is the transferable skills I've benefited from. So sometimes in my entrepreneurship journey, I have a self-publishing business that is called WalkTime Books. That's kind of my entrepreneur endeavor at the moment. And, you kind of think of everything from that lens, right? I'm in the self-publishing space. I'm trying to publish children's picture books. I'm trying to really think about market and consumers and all of that jargon related to business. But in my other avenues or my other identities or places of work or family life or even school, different settings, I'm able to draw upon what I'm learning as an entrepreneur and transfer those skills in different environments, different settings, and with different people. So for one quick example, I'll say, again, when I'm trying to publish children's picture books towards consumers such as families or librarians, I'm thinking, when should I post on social media? What's the best time? Are parents on social media or Facebook? I mean, as far as Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, and so you learn about all those different things through like market research or trying to understand that audience. And so in my profession, I'm a public health professional. I work for the government in Washington, D.C. I transfer those skills in asking those same questions about how do I serve district residents? Where are they at? How best do they like to receive their information? Do they like Twitter, Instagram, all those different things? So it's like you're able to transfer all those skills into different settings. That's what I really gravitate to in this entrepreneurship.
So what I like about that is like you really have to study the game. Like you really have to, like you said, do your research, look at ins and outs. Like what's the best time to post on Twitter? What's the best time to post on Facebook? And that's something that you really have to, take the time out. You know what I mean? And another thing, well, like I like how you said, like it transfers skills because I noticed like a lot of the younger generation, what I mean, they, you know, just want to focus solely on entrepreneurship, and just cut out, working. But at the same time, it's like working while, pursuing your business, it can help out because you can learn the skills and that can translate to your business, and the skill set that you learn from working can really help you out on your business. And I think like that's really like, it's so much beneficial, when you have, work experience like that, it can transfer to your business. And yeah, so I think that's a very good point, man.
It's a two-way street, I say, and to be and keep those lanes open, right? Because that's a perfect example you shared. Because in my line of work, we have, it's branding, we have style guides, we have ways that we communicate, as far as our tone or what we wear. And so, as you can see, I don't know if you're able to see, but you see a little branding here with WalkTime Books. I transferred that from my job into my entrepreneurship endeavors. I said, as I'm kind of in a startup phase, people don't really know WalkTime Books. I said, how do I make sure that there's consistency in what WalkTime Books is? Like, what's the brand? And so, like you said, from my occupation, that kind of mindset was a transferable skill that came over into my entrepreneur mindset. And I'm glad because it was early on that I said, if I'm going to step out as an entrepreneur, I want to do my research and do my best to show the quality of WalkTime Books, right? And that's when I start to really think about branding. Now, I wanted to kind of jump into the good stuff. Like I'm like the branding. I want to jump into like, I want to get my Instagram ready and all this stuff. But I had to take a step back and say, wait, before I get there, I need to ask some of these core foundational questions. What is my brand? What do I want people to start associate with WalkTime Books? And so, yeah, you're right. Those I would say, make sure you keep them lanes open so that the transferable skills can cross either way.
Right. And they got to be patient. A lot of the young generation, they're impatient. They want it now. You know what I mean? But like you said, take it a step at a time and grow your skill set. And, that will translate to your business. So I like that, man. So let's get into it, man. Like, what's the name of your business and go more in detail for the audience.
So WalkTime Books is a self-publishing company where we produce children's picture books and public health content centered on physical activity. Our goal is to kind of expand our understanding of physical activity to be a celebration of culture, a way to move communities forward, as well as an extension of yourself. So like self-expression. So those are three kind of cornerstones of WalkTime Books that we try to really promote. So I'll give a few examples. So we can think about ways to move our community forward. If we think about a lot of social justice movements in the world, especially as we're in Black History Month, we think about, marches, right? What do marches normally entail? Walking. And so I like to kind of think about physical activity, as, hey, a key ingredient to those marches and protests is walking. That's a way to move our communities forward. Another thing is, how we have on our iPods, right? What's your top song? I think like Spotify or, those like Spotify, like at the end of the year, it's like, this is your number one song you played all year, right? With WalkTime Books, we try to, through our publishing content, try to have our readers ask themselves, well, what's my number one physical activity? What is it? Is it dancing? Is it walking in the park? Is it, commuting to work? That's my jam. And then another thing is looking at physical activity as culture. So the way I know you are in Georgia, I'm in Maryland. Our movement, the way we do physical activity, kind of like the popular sports, all of those things, there's a cultural element to it. So that my walk here in Maryland may be different in my walk in Georgia or in another area. So we try to bring those three elements: self-expression, ways to move communities forward for social justice, as well as physical activity as culture. So that's basically in a nutshell what WalkTime Books is, using educational content to kind of promote those three pillars.
Okay, I like that, man. So let's get off the topic real quick. Let's take a quick break. Wait.
All right.
Back into it. I got a mysterious question for you, man. What's an idea that most people get wrong?
An idea.
Majority of people get wrong. Like, it can be,
in any context.
In any context.
Curveball. So I'm ready. I'm nimble. I can.
It's part of business, yo.
I think, an idea that people get wrong is that to move forward in life, there's only one lane. And I kind of speak this in the terms of like upward mobility. So a lot of times people think it's, go to college, get your degree, get the job, then you get the house and the family and the white picket fence, like that American dream. So I would say, just the times that we live in now, an idea is that a lot of people think that there's this one way of doing something or getting ahead to achieve something, when we're starting to realize there's so many different ways. And when you open up your mind to that, you start to see that if that one way that's presented to you or that you're exposed isn't for you, that there's other lanes that you can explore to find which one works for you. So that's what I would say, is that an idea is that we kind of think oftentimes there's this one way to achieve something in life, to reach the destination. But when you start to open your mind, you start to see there's several different lanes that you can take.
Yeah, that's real, man. Yeah, that's true, man. Like, for instance, like something like you go to college, you get let's say finance degree, and you find out that finance is not for you, right? But you want to get into coding, but you realize that you graduated, you can't go back. But now, they have different things like boot camps and, seminars.
University.
It's more that. So, you like you said, different lanes, So I like that, man. So let's get back to WalkTime Books, man. So what upcoming projects you got, man, with it? Like, what all you got intel for the future?
So I'm debuting my first children's book in 2023. I'm going to manifest it. We had a lot of ups and a lot of curveballs. I started this actually in 2018. 2018.
Hey, man, you can, man.
But the goal is to publish my first children's picture book titled A Walk Through Memory Lane. It is about a young grandchild who is helping his grandmother, who is living with dementia, navigate having to leave her home city. So he uses physical activity and he uses innovation. He uses thinking outside the box to figure out how to help his grandmother who's living with dementia. So that's my current project, my first actual project, and it's just getting that book completed. But it's a massive project because, as I said, I'm self-publishing. And so it's not just I wrote the book and then I sent it off to a major publishing house to acquire my book, and then they do all the production. I'm actually in charge of the whole entire production. So from securing an illustrator to a book designer to securing an editor to talking with printing companies to figure out the quantity of size the books to get, when they will come so they can come in time for the holidays so that you can have your copy under your tree. So all of that right now is what I'm in the current midst of doing.
Yeah, man. For real, man. You gotta let me know when the book get done, man. I like that. I haven't really heard of, lately, like books coming out that's about physical activity, you know what I'm saying? I like how you're doing, physical activity and pictures and illustrations and, and in a way to where everybody can read it and understand it. Adults, kids. You know what I mean? Like I really like that, and I feel like it's gonna take off, man. I feel like what I mean. I know it's gonna take off. You know what I mean? That's a great idea. You know what I mean? And not only that, bro, it's like just the idea of it, man. Just bringing books together for us to read to help us out in our active journey. You know what I mean?
And
So
I really appreciate how you said for us, not specifically thinking or framing it as far as for children. That's
right,
one thing I hope to really, I guess, demystify is that as if children books are only for children. You can find books on everything, maybe books to know how to do your tax, children's books on how to do your taxes, children's books on voting rights, children's books on how to learn about finances and investing. So much content out there exists that it can benefit and be of entertainment or education for not just children, but for adults. And that's one thing I hope that this book also helps to demystify, because like you said, Caleb, I'm a researcher. I'm a current Ph.D. student at Univeristy of Maryland. And a lot of the things I research funnels back into WalkTime Books, where I say, how do I take the things that I study and I typically write in an academic journal article and translate it into a digestible way for families or communities to digest. And I think that that intervention point, right, is children's picture books. And you would be surprised. It's very, very hard to write a children's picture book. You're
well,
oftentimes limited to about 1,000 words. And that's kind of really pushing it. So to think about, how do you think about character development, storylines, the theme, the tone, word choice, all within like 1,000 words, and the pacing. And then also with picture books, you have to think about not only the text, but the illustrations. And so how you make sure there's harmony between the two.
yeah,
So it's so much that goes into it, so that you hope the outcome is that when folks read the book, there's a takeaway from it, whether it's the actual content in the book, so physical activity and dementia, or organic conversations that come just from you reading it, either with yourself or with, other folks, right? Like, hey, what did you think? Or what did you not think? Or, it started off me thinking about dementia, but I actually just started thinking about my grandmother who is living with cancer, right? And so, it can just translate more and more. Because I will say, and I apologize, I forgot to mention back then, is that Elijah is the grandchild, but serves in a role as a caregiver. And so it's really not only about talking about physical activity and dementia or folks living with dementia, it's also about physical activity and how caregiving in an act of itself is physical activity, which we oftentimes don't think. And I'll say this, one of our pillars for WalkTime Books is to challenge that physical activity isn't just for disease prevention. I don't work out or walk or dance so that I can avoid the risk of diabetes, or so I can lower my BMI, or so that I can monitor my hypertension. I may, but that's not the only reason. I may do it because sometimes my mental health, I get flustered trying to write a paper or flustered at work, that I need to just go out and walk. So it's more of an act of self-care. It's not necessarily for disease, but it's more of just like, because it makes me feel good. Or sometimes I'm going, so it's just so much to, I bring it back to where it really, you're right. These children's books are meant to kind of be an entry point to these conversations.
yeah, man. I really like the I really like the idea where you said that using activity with being a caregiver. I feel like that will help the younger generation draw more attention to wanting to take care of the elderly, and if they got a grandma in the hospital or an uncle in the hospital, because once your grandma, your uncle go to the hospital, a lot of times nobody go visit them, and they get lonely. You know what I mean? But I feel like with this book, it'll push being a caregiver, and will help them to not only stay active, but also to help out the elderly. So I like that, bro. I like that. How you going about like scaling? Like, are you just want WalkTime Books to just be in Maryland, or are you trying to make it be like a worldwide thing, or just a U.S. thing, or like how you going about scaling it?
So I'll say this, and I'm going to kind of again infuse the entrepreneur questions we talked about before,
Yeah.
and that my goal for me right now is to get this book published. Only because I again said I started this in 2018 from an idea, a seed of an idea that I didn't know where this was going to go. I didn't know if it was going to, put me in debt. I didn't know. I had something in here. And a lot of times when you try, talk about your idea to someone else, they're like, yeah, yeah, or they don't quite get it. So like, okay, I'm just going to have them keep talking and then, we can separate, they kind of like, yeah, yeah, but it's hard for them to picture it. And I said, you know what, a picture or a visual illustration speaks 1,000 words. So I said, I have WalkTime Books. I don't know where it's going to go, but the first thing I want to do is have a tangible product, something that people can see. As you can see these characters behind me, these are the WalkTime Books characters, to then start the conversation. Now I'm starting to enter a phase where the book production is more of like project management and just overseeing it, getting it to the finish line. I'm starting to now think, where can I go beyond a book? Yeah. And so that's where I'm at right now. And I actually am looking at utilizing transferable skills, right? My network at University of Maryland, as far as looking at, they have entrepreneurship kind of programs. They have a host of like entrepreneurs in residence. I oftentimes set up appointments to talk to them and get their ideas about where I can go with this. And so I don't quite know where I'm going to go with this. I don't know how wide it's going to scale up. But what I've recently learned with University of Maryland is that that's okay to be in that space. Yeah. So right now I'm still in kind of almost customer discovery of like working on different projects, different mediums to see what lands, to see what sticks, but really also again to really just grow a relationship with my consumers or my audiences or the folks I really hope this provides some type of benefit to. So I guess that's a long way of saying I'm not. I would hope it scales up. I mean, I hope Oprah calls me and it's like, we're going to have your book on like Oprah's, favorite book reads. But for right now, I think from your advice, go slow and let it organically grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, man. Okay. Let's get off the topic, man. Let's get a mysterious question, man. I like that, man. I love this topic, man. Everything you talk about, man. You know what I mean? WalkTime Books and everything, man. So with the mysterious question, man, what do you think the world will look like in 50 years? Because we always joking around about it, but like 50 years is gonna come one day. Like it's gonna be here one day. You know what I mean? So,
wow. I think in 50 years, the world is going to be like all those, science fiction movies that showed like, technology taking over or technology just being the center of life. I think, that's where we're headed with artificial intelligence. I strongly believe that you will one day be able to sit in your home and not move at all, but have all your needs met. Meaning your daily life activities, so cleaning, mowing the grass, washing your clothes, all that will be able to be done from technology. If you need to go grocery shopping, you can be on your phone, call, Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or Giant, and, they'll package your items and it'll be delivered by like Uber Eats or, one of those transportation systems. So I really do think everything's going to be to where in 50 years, technology is going to be doing all of our human movement. And so I am in strong protest against that. As you know, I study physical activity. And so I'm always intrigued about it. I tell you, it's amazing when you see all this technology, these devices, vacuum cleaners that can just, the little circle one that just goes around and cleans up. It's like, why, it's a double-edged sword, I would say, because it's helpful and it provides, and has its advantages. But at the same time, I'm always asking how much actual movement are we extracting from our day-to-day life? And as you grow older, you do start to appreciate your ability to move.
Oh yeah.
You don't see it now, but as you get older, you start to realize you do even appreciate the smallest things of movement. So that's what I would say. 50 years, it's going to be totally like smart house. Driving cars. Yeah. Driving cars. Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. Who would have thought?
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of see it the same way, man, in 50 years, man. Like, with this AI and how this AI is going, I feel like it's gonna be real robotic. A lot of things is gonna be a lot of things gonna be done by robot. You know what I mean? And I feel like these robots are gonna take a lot of jobs, and I don't know, man. It's gonna be an interesting time, man. Because what they doing now is crazy, man. But
And it's out of my expertise. I was actually telling some friends, I was like, man, back in the day when I was at college, I thought I was competing with other humans. I don't know what it's like to now be in college and compete with other like robots and technology. I just can't compete. So
yeah,
the best advice, if I'm predicting this correctly, I would circle back to the start of our conversation of stay ready, plan, 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 because there will be some curveballs. Because I don't know. I mean, even walking into stores, I start to see a lot more like self checkouts.
yeah,
Even stores that I went never had it. Now they do. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And like you said, if you have like several self checkout stations and just one person like overseeing it, where the jobs for the did it take away jobs from another seven? I mean, I don't know. And that's just one small example. I
yeah.
mean, you can go on and on and on. My friend was saying, well, either learn tech or invest in it.
Right. Like you said, man, you definitely gotta have like a playbook with multiple plays in it. You know what I mean? Gotta stay ready. Um, yeah. So with the WalkTime Books, man, I know you in a Ph.D. doctorate program, ain't you?
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
So what is that like? Like, what is that about? Like, how does that, and also how does that entail? How does that combine with WalkTime Books?
So I'm currently a third year PhD student in the School of Public Health at University of Maryland College Park. And in that, I study like walkable communities. So I study how do we build communities that help physical activity be an option or be the easy choice or be a choice that is favored because some communities are designed where it's easy to walk out. You go walk outside, and we often think when you can walk, that means there's other things you can do, right? So if you can walk if you can walk on a sidewalk, it's to assume that you can bike, roller skate, wheelchair roll, all those things. So we kind of look at walking as a common denominator. So I say that to say some communities are designed where that choice is the easy choice. Others, it's not because those communities are designed for more so automobiles and cars, right? So it's easier to like cross a street that has, maybe a 2-lane street versus like a 6-lane street, right? Or a street that has, over that 6-lane street, there's a bridge over it. So we can walk over it. So we don't have to play Frogger and move against these cars. So that's really what I study. And I also study that in the context of, the people who live in communities. So I say that to say, how do we make sure that what we build in our communities to promote physical activity align with residents or people who are currently living there, particularly Black and brown residents? So what typically tends to happen is, you can build all these things and it's maybe for the community, but it's for the community for a moment. And then often you start to see shifts where the Black and brown folks who are living there are starting to be pushed out, and then more white residents start to come in. So I kind of look at that gentrification process as well. I won't go too into that, but that's something I do try to take in consideration of how do we build walkable communities and how do we build walkable communities that are designed for current residents, particularly Black and brown residents who live in those communities so that they can remain in those communities and enjoy those physical activity benefits that come from the, the design and build of the walkable community. So that's what I kind of study, and it circles back to WalkTime Books because that choppy response I just gave you shows I'm still wrestling with all those concepts and things, right? But WalkTime Books helps me to break it down, and I use my characters. You see here, Elijah, Skylar.
Bring them out, man. Bring them out, man.
Bring them out. Bring them out. Let me see. Okay, we have here. This is Skylar. She is the oldest daughter of the Walker family, and she is almost like a Beyonce spirit. She loves to do majorette dance, and she likes ESPN sports. And one of the things I kind of bring here is that, again, these concepts of like, she often thinks about with a male-dominated industry, does she even have a place in the sports industry, but she's like, I do, and I'm going to create space, and I'm going to show that I have agency in that space. So she kind of brings that type of spirit, and again, we use that to kind of talk about almost like sport sociology kind of space within physical activity. And then here we have Elijah, who is the main character. And if you go to WalkTimeBooks.com, you'll be able to see like all their more detailed descriptions. But he serves to show that physical activity is creative. It's inclusive. It can be so many different things, right? It doesn't have to be just exercise and in the gym, which counters that kind of idea that physical activity has to be in the gym or you have to be an athlete to be physically active. You can just go out and walk. But we circle back to the idea once again that if you don't have communities that are walkable, you don't have that choice. And so I kind of wrestle through that of like, okay, if I were Elijah and I'm thinking about complete streets, which means streets that are safe for me to walk, it has adequate lighting, there's no cracks, there's a barrier maybe between the road and I, what would he do? Is he walking to go to school? Is he walking to go play at the park? So just those things, these characters help operationalize all that I study about how do we build those walkable communities. And I guess I'll end off with, we think about recently COVID and the pandemic and how when we were on lockdown, we were, quarantined in our homes and locked in, right? So a lot of people started to walk. And where I live, there's trails. And so abundance of trails. So if there's other people walking, I'm like, oh, I can make the sharp left and go this way and go around the trail. And that person can keep going this way because there's so many options. But I am humble and I really try to be grateful for what I have because I said there's some communities where it's a lot harder for them to go out and walk. Like that option really almost becomes a dangerous one because it's not designed to promote walking. So it's like all those things kind of circle back. I kind of wrestle with, and I use these characters to kind of like situate myself in different different shoes, right? You try to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So I kind of use that. And then from there, build about what environment do these characters live in? And then from there, I ask myself, what stories take place? And then I circle it back to my research to dive deeper into learning more about, walkable communities. Because we do things in communities. We don't just sit there.
So this book will basically it'll basically open up more opportunities for people in communities that necessarily can't walk. Like it'll show them different angles and what you can do. You know what I mean? I like that. And also I like how like you say that, the character, the first character, what was the name again?
Skylar Walker.
Yeah, Skylar Walker. I like how you said like how she basically is showing like how there's different ways to exercise. You know what I mean?
Yes, most definitely.
Like it's not just the gym and being an athlete. You know what I mean? And that's what I've been trying to figure out these last couple of years is like different ways of staying. It's different ways of moving. You know what I mean? I don't want to just go to the gym all the time. I want to do different things, and I've been picking up on different things like just simply like just more yard work. You know what I mean? Get out there in the yard more. You know what I mean? So different things like that.
And I'll say I don't want the researcher to come out of me, but it's really true, and I think it circles back to my prediction. We're also starting to see that our sedentary time, our sitting time, is just becoming absurd too prevalent. Absurd too much time of us are sitting. If you look at a 24-hour day, how much of that time is just sitting? Right? There's no blood flow being pumped. If I work an office desk, I have to, and that's part of that community design I'm talking about, like walkable communities. I have a standing desk, standing desk to where sometimes I can break my sitting time, and I'm grateful that is it's designed in the space so that if I want to choose to stand, I can, right? And so those things I think about because we often think physical activity in that kind of moment of doing something as far as from the gym, right? I went to the gym today. If you went to the gym for like an hour, what are you doing throughout the rest of the day, right? And that's the thing that we want to kind of really bring to people's forefront is like, oh, I didn't go to the gym today. Darn, I didn't reach my goal. Yeah, you stood a lot. You took a lot of walking breaks. You walked to work. You did yard work. I mean, trust me, if you do yard work, you'll feel it.
Oh yeah.
And so, it's like that's the thing we really try to encourage because even your sitting time is starting to be looked at as a negative risk factor for a lot of things. And so, and you position that with what we said, where the future may be going, right?
Yeah.
Being able to do everything from your couch, right? Just from voice command. Hey Siri, do this, or Alexa, do that. It's just something to think about. Where I hope this book, not only this book, which is an output of WalkTime Books, I hope WalkTime Books engages us in that conversation about expanding how we think about physical activity.
Right.
Because a lot of times we limit it to either like I'm an athlete, or I don't like to go to the gym, or I'm trying to do it to avoid diseases. But I'm like, it's so much more, so much more, and we haven't even touched the surface.
Right. And I think like one of the big things, you got to keep your body moving, man. Like people wondering why they get older and getting stiff. Like you stay moving while you're young, you can decrease that chance of happening. But also like with the younger generation, the kids, I'm pretty sure like they're
Yep.
game focused. You know what I mean, on the game. And what are you doing when you're on the game? Sitting down, not moving. You know what I mean. And if you let them, they'll play the game all day long. So I feel like this book will, teach them get out. You know what I mean? Get some air. You don't have to go to the gym. Get out there and you know what I mean? Go to the mailbox. You know what I mean? Say hey to your neighbor at the mailbox. You know what I mean? Just get moving.
And another thing I want to circle back to the book is, a message from the book comes out of saying physical activity helps make meaningful memories. So I also want to say, I forgot to mention that the book is kind of like a love letter to my grandmother who passed in 2022 living with dementia.
Yes,
and so it was not only a book about WalkTime Books and trying to promote physical activity, it also was a healing mechanism for me in processing being a caregiver as a grandchild and wrestling with, aiding her in her, transition. And so, from the book, you get to realize that, it was really hard because I was like, wow, I know it's coming. She's slowly starting to lose her ability to do certain functions and certain things. And as a caregiver, I'm like, I'm here to provide, help her in that regard, right? Help her with, folding her clothes or helping her eat and this and that. And caregiving can be, I call it a challenging reward because it's a tasking, right? It's physical activity. And so my mindset at first was like almost like a job, and how do I do this? But I had to change my mindset. And then I realized caregiving is allowing me to make new memories with my grandmother. So at first I thought they were lost. I was like, with dementia, it impacts your ability to, memory loss and other types of neurological functioning. But so I was like, oh, she's not going to remember it, right? She's not going to remember that I was here. But then I changed it where like I'm creating new memories.
Right.
And I'm creating new memories for me, even though I thought they were lost. And even though she may not be able to like recall the memories that we're making now, I know she feels it. And so I say all this to say it's through that physical activity. And physical activity is movement. And when we move with people, if we're, one time when we went to go, my sister and I, we all went to visit you. We went bowling, right? Yeah. That's movement, and that created memories to where we can laugh about, right? Where you, Josh, and I, your brother, we were trying to buy out for number one, right? And so it builds memories. But how can you build memories when you're just
right on the phone, right?
Oh, you said something? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I credit this. And so I kind of go on that tangent to say caregiving is physical activity, but it also helps you create new memories. Physical activity helps you create new memories because it's movement, And so unfortunately, a lot of these people are doing FaceTime, right? But my uncle kind of said, no, put down the phone and actually do FaceTime, right? Yeah, right. And so I say how to do FaceTime. Physical activity will change your mind. Oh, and then you look back to say, when you start to go over your day, you'll realize, oh, I didn't go to the gym, but I took a walking break with a colleague. We did line dancing today at a pep rally event. We did a cleanup in our community. So we not only beautified our community, but through the engagement of picking up debris and repainting like walls and stuff. That's all physical activity, building memories, and also moving your community forward, because now you got a community that's been cleaned up, and you take pride in that. So I go all, it's just, again, and that's why you can see there's so many angles that I use these characters to help me channel my thoughts. So next time you have to be like, Roger, we're going to talk about Elijah, or we're going to talk about Barbershop UCAN Man. He hasn't been revealed, but he's coming in tribute to my Uncle John, to your father. So that's coming down the line. So next time you have to be like, Roger, we're just going to channel this in on one character.
Yeah, man, we for sure got to run that in the future, man, for sure. So I know, like, you got a lot going on in your business, school and work. Like, what is your typical, daylight, doing all that? Like, what is your typical day? Because I know it's a lot.
Yes, it's a lot. I would say.
And I better hear in activity, too. You walking it.
I have to. If I don't, I get flustered. I can't think. Nothing gets done. Okay. But when I take that walk, I get that juice I need to be productive and go back at it. I would say my day works like this. It's a 9 to 5 with my typical job. And then my entrepreneur work starts from 5 to 9. And so you really have to let that sink in. 9 to 5, I'm doing my job with my in DC, my profession as a public health professional working in government. I am then take the metro home, and I have to clock in to do WalkTime Books. And then after 5 to 9, I'm studying for school.
Grind, you know what I mean? It's a grind.
It is. And this is one thing I'll say. A lot of people will say the 9 to 5 job ain't for me, or school's not for me, right? And that's totally fine, because as I said before, there's different ways to arrive to the final destination. But some people, I think, underestimate entrepreneurship to where it's like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, so I'm going to start my own business. And I'm like, do you know the investment that is? And I'll say this, stemming back to how I said right now I'm focused on publishing this book, right, in 2023, and I have to look at all project management, illustrating and all that. There's been so many times I I might just throw in the towel.
Right.
I'm about to just, let me just quit. My mom always told me, don't speak prematurely about what you're going to do, right? So I kept WalkTime Books under the rug, and I still kind of do now. I was like, it's not too late, because people don't know. I didn't say I'm going to do this, and people are like, okay, Rod, you're waiting for it, and never came. So I can back out now and just be like, because I'm done. But, I realize why I'm in it, and I stay committed to it. And I just recognize you have to pay your dues. Yeah. Like, this is the learning curve is tremendous, because as an entrepreneur, especially if you don't have a lot of money, either you do it or you have to pay someone else to do it.
Right.
So you have to, and then if you pay someone else to do it, you have to pay them what they're worth, right? You don't want to cheapskate them, but you also have to be able to articulate what you want, right? So that you can you can leave happy with the partnership, right? Mm-hmm. I think of it with social media. You have social media managers. You have from looking at hashtag and all the changing algorithms with all these social media platforms, and then actually designing the content, right? All of that, and then actually not even editing the content, but then getting the content. All these things, that's just one little nugget of the whole entrepreneurship thing, right? And it's like, I ain't got time for that. But I don't have money to bring onboard someone to be my social media manager. Right. So what option you think I did? I got to do it. Yeah, do it. And after that, you got to think about what are some you got to put on your legal hat, right? And that's a whole separate thing of making sure that what are some of the legal ramifications you got to think about, right? Fortunately, I'm not doing direct services. I'm not like a trainer, but if I were a trainer, I'd think about what happens if someone gets hurt and what's the insurance. And so, so many different things. So sometimes I'm like, wow, maybe I should just write the book. Well, I wrote the book. The book took me 2 months to write. Man, all this other stuff is what made it this long. I'm like, maybe I should just go and give it to send it out and hope it gets picked up by a publisher and call it a day. But you know what? I have to stay on my 9 to 5 and my 5 to 9. But I just wanted to kind of give that story to say, don't underestimate entrepreneurship. You're going to have to pay your dues, go up, embrace that learning curve, and then you'll reach a point where I hope my 5 to 9 becomes my 9 to 5.
Right.
But you have to be patient, as we said earlier on, because I think a lot of us just kind of want to skip all that and have our 5 to 9 become our 9 to 5. Don't work like that.
Right. I think a lot of a lot of people see, being an entrepreneur and running a business is like driving a car.
Hmm.
At first, it's amazing and everything is good, but when that gas run out, they want to get mad and complain and want to turn their backs. But nah, you got to go to the gas, walk to the gas station, get the gas, and put it in the car. You know what I mean, and keep moving. You know what I mean. So you can't just quit.
And hope you have a container to hold the gas.
Hold the gas. You know what I mean?
The right container.
The right.
Yeah, and so much, and people because like I've seen it a lot of times that people kind of use entrepreneurship as a cop out of like, I don't want to do traditional work. School ain't for me, so I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And I'm just like, that's fine, but just don't underestimate it.
Right.
Because then you get into it and you realize it's a lot more. I have learned so much about graphic design and editing and language and marketing and all these different but they're transferable skills.
Right.
And it circles back to what I said with the framing of it, of like, I'm in these training grounds building these skills that I then can have be transferable and apply in many settings that I'm in. But it's that mindset and that frame of mind.
Right, man. Right, man. Like you gotta keep pushing, man. You can't just quit when times get tough. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with working in 9 to 5 while starting a business. You know what I mean? In fact, some of the most successful people in business done that. You know what I mean? 3 tips that you have for the audience. It could be, about life. It could be about, walking. It could be about any of that. What's 3 tips that you would like to give the audience to help them out?
I'll give the 3 tips of advice that I encourage folks to take. You can take 1% all the way up to 100%. Is number 1, talk to seniors or senior citizens. They have a wealth of knowledge and nuggets of wisdom, and I encourage you to just if they're willing and want to, let them pour into you. I got to where I am today through just my ancestors and through those who've been down the road who did not find it robbery to pour some nuggets into me to where I use today. The second thing I would say is know that you are more than enough. Everything that you're trying to aspire to do is already in you. It's already inherent in you. It's your gifts, and you are Black excellence. So never feel like, what you need is outside of your control or outside of you. Everything else is there to support you and help you train and nurture and have it, manifest into its optimal kind of state or condition. But just know it's in you. And then the third thing I would say is it's okay to take an active pause in life. Now, I know I've been talking about physical activity and movement and staying on the grind, but I would also say that it's okay and it is expected that you take an active pause. There are seasons to be, really on the grind and pedal to the metal, but even in training, there's days where you need to rest. And don't think that it's robbery that you're resting or that you're unproductive. Know that you're being productive by letting your body recuperate, letting your mind rejuvenate, and just getting a refresh start so that you can go back at it. So feel free to take active pauses and active seasons. It's totally fine.
Okay, man. I like that, man. You can get your walk in, but at the same time, you gotta have some days where, you gotta rest up. So, yeah, so we at the end, man. Let us know, you got any social media, or how can we get in contact with you, or how can we get the books, or give us anything like that.
Perfect. Thank you for that opportunity, Caleb. I would say follow us at WalkTime Books on Instagram. That's at WalkTime Books. And then also, I would encourage you, if you want to learn more about WalkTime Books or be on our journey with the self-publishing process of A Walk Through Memory Lane, please feel free to follow us at www.walktimebooks.com, and you'll be able to subscribe to our newsletter and be part of that journey. So really, really, that's the biggest way you can help us out so that you can stay up to date with updates and progress in that journey. And, join us. There'll be ways for us to interact with you all, to kind of collect feedback and ask you questions that will shape the process. Like, do you like this book cover? Do you think this interior page should be changed, as far as like how the illustrations look? We kind of like interact with our audiences through our newsletter. So subscribe if you want to be a part of that, play an active part in that journey.
Okay, man. And everything he said, I'm gonna add to the description, the links and everything. First off, Roger, I just want to say thank you again for taking your time out of your day to, run this podcast. I learned so much, man. I learned so much. And, I'm finna, lead this podcast and go get my steps in and go to the you know what I mean? So I just want to say thank you, man. Hey, like, comment, subscribe, and always remember, you can.
That's right.